Hey, how are you? I hope you've had a great week. I can't believe it is already Monday. We'll just wait a minute or two for some folks to join us. I realize that I'm competing with The Voice on Monday night. I don't have cable, so I don't think about what's on TV. The therapy cat is going to be joining me in a minute. He's been jumping up and around, and oh, there he is. Oh, there you got. Hey, Christine. Oh, there he is. He's purring very loud. He was being a little bit. How has your week been, Christine? Good? You've been able to get more riding in? It hasn't been snowing in Vancouver. We're getting a big storm tonight, apparently. Oh, good. Good. Another minute, Christine, and we'll start, because sometimes I was just saying that I am in I'm in competition with a couple very good shows on Monday night. Apparently Monday night is a very good TV night. So, but I'm going to continue on with Monday nights at this time because I think people are getting used to it, and it's the whole idea. And people can always check it out after that. It is nice to have lots of folks on the line, but the whole purpose is to get the information out there. And, we have to keep our egos in great check during this time. So, my little petri dish grandson has brought home another cold from school, and that is not overly helpful. Not overly helpful at all. So, let me tell you what I have been reading this week. So I read a fantastic book, and I'm in the middle of reading another really fantastic book. So the book that I read it last weekend, and it's called Stealing Fire. And the authors are Stephen Kotler, Kotler, and Jamie Wheel. And I have just written a small description from the, because it's just so, it's such a giant, like a giant theme book. It really is really amazing. And, but, hi Martha. It's, we're talking about, Martha, a book that I just read. Oh yes, and I'm getting lots of loving from the therapy cat. Stealing Fire. And this is thought to be a provocative examination of what actually is possible through psychology, which is what we're talking about here. This is the psychology of mindfulness. Neurobiology, which is what a lot of the psychology is based on, that, the capability of the brain and the brain's ability to invoke plasticity. Technology and pharmacology. It's really pretty fantastic. What I took away from the book, aside from, they talked about some of the psychedelic drugs that were going on in the 60s. I was a little young for that then, but I know certainly when I got to high school, a lot of my friends were actively participating in the drug world, and I didn't do that. And I and as when I was hearing about what their experience was when they were adolescents, it wasn't something that really appealed to me. That because they were talking crazy talk Crazy talk. Anyway, this particular book, Stealing Fire, talks about some of the ways in which the mind is altered temporarily to get you out of, that to coin a really overused phrase, the out-of-the-box thinking. So you're thinking without all of your standard barriers up and your limits and everything else. And so it's a very fast way to get, into a different headspace. We're doing it the long, less expensive, likely to last a whole lot longer and can be invoked without having to take illicit drugs approach, which is managing the mindset. But anyway, it is really, it really is a fantastic book. And they talk a great deal about how elite military groups use managing their mindset and being able to stay very present so that they can be elite. They can accomplish things that that others that don't have a good handle on that they can accomplish. Anyway, the book I'm now reading is called The Biology of Belief. And wow, this is, it's really, really pretty fantastic. Excuse me. It's, The Biology of Belief is unleashing the power, I have my little notes here, unleashing the power of consciousness, matter, and miracles. And it's by Bruce Lipton. And this is the 10th anniversary. This thesis that Bruce Lipton has written this book about is that genes and DNA do not control our biology. DNA is controlled by signs outside of the cells, including energetic messages emanating from positive and negative thoughts that we have. And I have really been drawn, I'm about halfway through it, excuse me, I'm about halfway through it, and I'm finding it absolutely fascinating that I have read bits and pieces of this in all kinds of different journals where that science is now looking at the mind-body connection. And it used to just be thought of as alternative, woo-woo, hippie stuff, soft. And Bruce Lipton, the author, he was at a highly regarded medical school as a teacher, and he left there on a sabbatical because he was finding that although he had everything that he had wanted and he was very successful in his work, he was miserably unhappy and was not able to find any joy in his life other than work. So what he did was he went and started teaching medicine in the Caribbean islands at universities that took students who couldn't get into U.S. schools, but were able to get into, the second-tier school, but they had to write the same entrance exam, same medical exams, so that they could practice in the States if they wanted to. And what he found, it was interesting that some of these students, given that, they were feeling, to start with, like second-class citizens because they couldn't. Most of them had actually tried to get into U.S. schools and they weren't able to. And some of them hadn't tried. They just wanted to go to school in the Caribbean. And this instructor, Bruce, he took upon himself, he wanted to apply his theories of how genes can be, genetic material can be impacted by the outside systems, and so that's what he did. That's how he taught. He taught the students to work as a group, to help each other, whereas in regular medical school, not that I've been to medical school, but apparently it's extremely competitive, and there is certainly a high sense of scarcity, and so the students are not interested in supporting one another. And so that's the start of it, and he's, you know, he goes through a lot of the actual scientific stuff, which he keeps it at a point for a regular reader. But anyway, those are two great books that they're certainly supporting the research that I've done, supporting the thinking that I have, and supporting the teaching that I'm doing. So that's what drives me to find these books that are coming from different angles of that is supporting the idea that managing your mindset and managing how you handle emotions and thoughts and urges are serve you well. Okay, so that's my little up to date on what I've been doing. Let's go back to last week where we talked about labeling. And it felt, you know, when I looked at it after, that's why I did another little session and put it on the group wall, was that, you know, it really, when we talked about labeling our thoughts, emotions, sensations, urges, etc., that's a foundational part of being able to meditate, where you can actually get some of the, you know, those significant changes in your mindset that you're looking for. Because the whole purpose of meditating is to calm your systems down, to relax your mind, to free your mind up, to not be burdened with the, you know, the crazy shit that hits your mind all the time. You know, if you were to do an experiment and you were to say, okay, set a timer and sit for 5 minutes and not think about anything in particular, but just, you know, just let things, thoughts, emotions, and everything, you know, sort of breeze by. If you were to count on your fingers or count with little sticks, how many thoughts and ideas and emotions and judgments and all these things that come through your mind and want to stay, how many go through there? You know, there are literally thousands and thousands of thoughts. We have very little capability of protecting our mind. You know, we need to have like a moat around our head, because there's too many, hi Jen, too many creepy, scary things that want to creep in there and make us frightened, make us scared, make us sad, make us angry, all of those kinds of things. So we have to develop strategies, and that's why we're going to have a tool section once a month to create tools to help us manage these kinds of things. So that's really a foundational piece, is being able to label what is going on, you know, especially while you're meditating. And the idea is that as you practice this, and it takes time, it takes lots of time to, when you're meditating, to label these emotions, and you like greet them and let them go. I know that sounds really flaky, but it works. Trust me, it works. I am so non-flaky. Actually, I'm probably a bit of a hard ass, and I do find that this works fantastically. And for those of you who know me, know I've had a lot of things go on in the last 5 years or so that if I hadn't been able to manage these states, I probably would be a blathering idiot, because it would be too much. So today we're going to do labeling emotions part 2, and that is labeling judgments. So we all have judgments, and I'm going to stick this conversation Stick with this conversation, the idea of when we're meditating, because when you practice, when you meditate, then you can take that out into your everyday life and into your everyday experiences, that you'll have some successes and you'll have some experiences in being able to do this. So so don't think for 1 second that these skills aren't something that you can use or should use. There, I've just should on you. I hate it when people should on me, but that you can use in every circumstance. Be it a telephone conversation, be it a face-to-face conversation, be it a confrontation, that just keep these things in mind. So right now we're going to talk about the practice state of meditating, and however you choose to do it. Lately, actually, I've always been I meditate by focusing on my breath, and lately I've been doing some guided meditations, which have been really nice. I just like to shake it up a bit. And the idea of labeling judgment. So, what also I want to make sure that I don't create a misnomer here, and that when I talk about labeling emotions, I'm certainly not talking, while we're meditating, I'm not talking about suppressing emotions, because that's not good. When you suppress something, it bobs down here, but it comes back up here. You have to deal with those kinds of things when they're real emotions. But often when emotions cross our mind, they're not necessarily real. They are their fears, it's anger, it's a number of different things that are either past focused or future focused. They're not in the now. Hey Giselle, I've been just looking at all your nice birthday celebrations with your mini-me. Anyway, so now the judgment. We as a human race are very, very judgmental of others, but also of ourselves. And the idea, it has been said many times, and I have a tendency to agree with it, thank you for the hearts, appreciate them, is that if you are judgmental with yourself, you will be judgmental of others. That, hey, Donna, are you still in Europe? Oh, look at all those nice hearts. Thank you, everybody. So, I lost my train of thought. Donna says, I love you, and I go nutty. I'm like, oh. That's like the opposite of judgment. So there you go. I've just, I got my therapy cat on my shoulder, and my buddies telling me they love me. I am all good. All good. Oh, Donna's back in Vancouver. Great. Okay. So, I'm not suggesting that you suppress your thoughts, but let's talking about judgment. In that, we are all very judgmental, and we're very critical of ourselves. And yeah, I know for now, Donna, you're a globe traveler, girl. We need to have a conversation so I can catch up with what you've been up to. Donna does some really powerful stuff internationally, with large corporations around mindfulness and sustainable living. It's amazing. Good stuff. But between my cold and my therapy cat on my shoulder, excuse me, I have a close relationship with my Kleenex. So, I'm going to put this little dude down for now, because I'm getting distracted. I'm distracted by my nose and distracted by his purring in my ear, but he'll be back. Let me catch up with where I was at. So, judgment. When you are meditating, do you find that you sometimes have, so you're going ahead, you're labeling, but now you've got judgment in your labeling. So you're saying things like, oh my God, I've got anger here. I'm so stupid to be angry about something that's silly. That's just a whole load of judgment on an emotion that's sifting through. You can see how that would anchor that emotion down by putting some judgment on it. Another one is I'm too emotional, or I'm so sensitive that I must be crazy. What's with me? Why am I feeling this way? Again, judgment on an emotion that's passing through, and you anchor it down. Recognizing when you're judging yourself is something you need to do nicely. So when you find you're doing that, you can, oh, I see judgment has shown up too. Judgment and emotions sometimes in my world come together. Welcome, goodbye. Nicely. Don't get cranky with yourself or get critical because you've been judging your emotions. And I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic, but we do it. We do it. Am I right? Can I get a thumbs up for if you have ever done that, where you give yourself a particularly hard time? I know I'm not the only one that does it. Maybe I am. Okay. Yeah. Oh, they're there. There they are. All right. Yes, we do it all the time. All right. Given that, how are we going to manage the judgment and the negative emotions while we're being calm? Because remember, this is practice. We're practicing. So, I want to leap right in to give humor an opportunity here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about humor can be very helpful with these kinds of situations. But we'll talk a little bit more about judging more mindfully. Okay? So when you are in your meditative state and you've got emotions or thoughts or feelings or all of those kinds of things coming through, and you're finding that you are dabbling a little bit in judgment, continue breathing. Just continue breathing. Because when you get judgment involved, you will likely notice that your breathing changes. Certainly your posture will change. You'll see where your shoulders are sitting, because judgment has a very physical presence in our body, and it makes it very, very difficult to settle yourself back down unless you don't take ownership of it. Yes and no. So you acknowledge it doesn't mean you accept it. All right, so that when I say don't take ownership of it, is don't say, okay, I own that. Thank you very much. I'll just, yes, I'm flawed. I'm all these kinds of things. You just acknowledge it, release it. All right? Then I'm going to ask you to observe. Being mindful is a large observation. What you find, have you been, I know like Jen, you're very, very busy. You've got kids, you've got young kids that are very busy in the community. You've got a very busy job. You live in a farm. You have a lot of things to do, but there are opportunities where, it's doing things like when you're at a stop sign, breathe deeply 2 or 3 times. Just breathe deep. Take opportunities where you can be mindful, even if it's a minute or 2. There's lots of times, and you're waiting in the Tim Hortons lineup, rather than getting yourself agitated about how slow the lineup is going and how somebody's not making their mind up quick enough, take the opportunity to breathe, to be calm. Yes, Jen is trying. I know, it's hard, but it's work worth trying. And it's one of those things that all of a sudden, you'll realize someday you're in a situation that would normally trigger you off on something, that you can actually breathe through it. And you think, oh, it works. It works. You know, I have a mind that goes a bazillion miles an hour and not always in good places. It wants to go to stupid places sometimes, a little judgment there. But when things, so when I do react badly, and reacting badly for me is sometimes thinking frustrated thoughts or putting my judgment thoughts onto somebody else, I usually have to come back and have a conversation with myself about, wow, I was really feeling angry, or I was really feeling judgmental or critical. What was going on there? And having to take a moment to think about that, what triggered me, and you know, that we're all a work in progress. We're always working on it. But if you can take the time now, it's preemptive in that it will save you so much time down the road. I'm in the midst of creating a management how-to book. And, you know, one of the objections that you always get from managers is, I'm too busy to coach and do all those kinds of things. It was like, of course you're too busy, because you don't know how to manage. So you're having to reinvent the wheel every 5 minutes of your day. I'm going to help you by helping you reinvent your wheel, and then you can do it. You'll have a system to do it. This is exactly the same thing, where when you get yourself into these daily events, I remember when my son was younger, and there was a chunk of time where I was a single mom, and then when I wasn't a single mom, my husband worked downtown Toronto, so he left quite a bit earlier than Joshua and I did. And I am not a morning person. I can do it, but I don't like it. Oh, here comes the cat again. All right, he's back. And so I would kind of, not, just get up when I absolutely needed to, and I, drag myself out of bed. And I always found that I was getting frustrated because Joshua wasn't, moving as fast as I wanted him to. And I remember having to have a realization that this wasn't Joshua's issue, this was mine. I needed to give myself 20 minutes to a half hour more time, and then we wouldn't have these issues. But I started out it took me a little longer to figure out than what I like to admit. It took me a long time to realize that I was starting my day being really cranky with Joshua, sending him off to his whole day, with me dropping him off at school or waiting with him for the bus, with sort of, other than have a great day, I love you. So I'd say that, but in between I'd be like, come on, Joshua, and that was my issue, and I was making it his issue. So those kinds of things, those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, is when you are having something going on, think about it. Take a little quiet time. Sit yourself down, have a coffee, have a tea, breathe. Think about what's behind the issue. What's behind the issue? Okay? So strategies, just to kind of sum them up, you're going to label. Heavily into labels until we don't need them anymore. And that will come. That will come. But label what you're feeling. Breathe through the label. Breathe through it. It's okay. Oh, I just moved my phone. Notice what some of your body sensations are. Think about it. Is your breathing changing? Is your heart, moving a little bit? Are your feet cramping up? What's happening? And that will give you some observations about how those feelings impact your body, because they do have an impact. Keep all the observations present. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Then you're okay. You'll be okay. You will have been able to deal with a future fear or a past anger or frustration, leave them in the time frame that they're supposed to be in. Oh, well, I'm not sure what this little guy's doing today, but he's there. Are you going to join us? There's your little face. Okay. You will work yourself into a situation where in time you won't have to label, because it will become second nature. So let's move to humor. I want to make my final point about criticism and judgment and those kinds of things that we do to ourselves, is that if you can use humor to reduce some of the frustrations that you're feeling. I often will think, if I'm having all these very, I'm an inner bossy boots. That's when I was younger. Stop being so bossy. I always thought they were leadership skills, but apparently they were bossy to my mother. But when I'm getting into that, because it's judgment, when I'm wanting things to happen faster, something to go on, blah, 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 I'm thinking, who invited Bossy Boots here? Who invited her? You're not welcome here. Thank you very much. And it's just acknowledging that this is a part of who I am. And every now and then, I need to be bossed around a wee bit, but most of the time I don't. But use your humor. Does anyone have? I know we don't have a large group. We do. We are competing with a voice. But do any of you have anything humorous that you tell yourself when you find that you're getting into some judgment or some critical nature that you'd be willing to share with a group? Donna, you've worked on yourself for years. Tell me what's one of the things that you do, because you've got a fantastic sense of humor. It's warped like mine. Anybody got any thoughts of what kinds of things I do? Keeping in mind that everything you think is not necessarily true, right? Just because you think it. Used to be, if you read it in the paper, it's true. But that's not the same. It's the same now. Is not everything you think is true. Okay, so Donna's saying, I always turn the unexpected into a sitcom. Yes. Yes. Every now and then. I know I've had some things in my life that have gone on. And I remember thinking at the time, someday this is going to be funny. It's just not today. Yeah. Donna's saying that. So when something weird goes on, she's going to make a sitcom, and she's in the process of gathering material or generating it. Yes. Many of us, our lives would make for very funny sitcoms. But anyway, so I hope you have found this labeling Judgment 2.0 to be helpful. And I'll be posting the books that I've read and that I'm reading on the membership site. And the Facebook membership group is, I'll put it in the comments, is www.facebook.com/groups/Judy Mack, M-A-C-K. And the group, if you want to find it by its name, is Mindfulness in Everyday Living. And that is the place where any material that I am sharing and additional videos go up there. And so if this has been helpful, please share the link. I'm trying to build the mindfulness group into a good sized number so that we can really get some great community going. That the value of community is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So thank you, and I will see you next Monday. Thank you so much for joining. Good night, everybody.